Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Saco City Council meeting for March 2nd, 2026 at 6:30. I do apologize for the issue that we had with the door. We are getting that worked and fixed at this moment. And to start the meeting, before we call the official start to order, I do have Deputy Administrator Prescott and Director Moore who will be presenting information regarding the Portland Road Route 1 road diet.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City Administrator. We just wanted to give an update to the road diet. Previously, we had a presenter who was going to come from VHB who did our analysis, but we got a letter from DOT in response to our submission, so we just kind of wanted to go over a few things with that. So with the letter that we received, they provided 12 comments back to us, and of those 12 comments, some of them had multiple pieces. So kind of where we're at right now is they had suggested that right now they can't support the road diet based on how the analysis was performed. They would prefer that this was done as a demonstration project. There's not a road diet that has gone in permanently without a demonstration project. And right now, our plan is to bring this back to traffic safety, who had, approved the original request, and share the letter with them. And we can certainly look at other options. We have the Portland Road Master Plan. We have Reimagine Route 1. So there's other avenues that we can bring safety improvements to Route 1. But unfortunately, right now, with the tight time frame that they have with their project, and they're going to be advertising it in a couple of weeks, this is not going to be an option at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Director Moore? Councilor Gale?
Just in terms of the what would a demonstration project look like if that was something we'd be interested in?
So unfortunately, right now, where they're going to be paving that, it doesn't really give us an option for a demonstration project. We reached out to them last summer and was trying to work through a demonstration project, and it got to a stage where they were requiring us to do a thin overlay and restripe the roadway in order to do the temporary configuration, and it just became unfeasible for the city to expend the amount of money to do a demonstration project. And we did look at if they could do one in between the milling and shimming, paint the demonstration project, and then come back and do the final surface pavement. But they're concerned with contractor availability and the added cost to have a contractor mobilized twice. So we did look at that option as well.
Okay, great. Yep.
A quick follow-up question. So when it goes back to traffic safety, are the folks who came and presented public comment, do we have a good set of contact names and lists that we can send out to notify those folks, even though a project may not necessarily be occurring?
Yes, we can go ahead and talk with traffic safety about potentially notifying them of the change. We did go back and look at our mailing and email distribution lists over the period, and many of those folks were on it in some fashion. So we think we have enough info to certainly send out, but we'll have that conversation with traffic safety first.
Councilor Hewitt?
Just to confirm, it will continue to be 2 lanes north and 2 lanes south until otherwise.
Correct. It'll be the same configuration that there is right now.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Do we know at this time, is it planned for the March 19th traffic safety meeting, or will we be looking at April?
No, we'll have that on the March.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing any additional questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to call the official meeting to order. I would like to make note of all members present this evening, including our City Administrator, Ryan Pelletier. And would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Great, thank you very much, everyone. Moving on to item number 4, there is nothing under general this evening. Moving on to item number 5, committee correspondence to council. Are there any councilors wishing to share? Okay, not seeing anyone seeking recognition. Moving on to item 6, that is public comment. If you would like to speak, actually, we do have 2 members signed up first. We will get these 2 members first, and then we will open it up to the rest of the residents in the auditorium. Our first one that we do have listed is Sarah Giles. Would you please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hello. Okay. Hello. Madam Mayor and City Council, my name is Sarah Giles Gardner, 17 Pinehaven Street. I opposed this release agreement from the start from Blue Haven because the process has been inconsistent, opaque, and unsafe for residents. What has unfolded since then has only confirmed that this agreement cannot be trusted and cannot be used to justify lifting the moratorium. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Sarah. You need a second to compose yourself?
Yeah. Okay.
Let me stop the timer for you, and then you can restart.
Thank you. Sorry, I've been up all night. Okay. Okay, I'm ready. Thank you. You're welcome. Residents receive different versions of the materials, some full packets, some only letters, some nothing at all. Critical pages were missing or altered. Rate charts changed without explanation. That alone makes signature count unreliable. Residents were handed updated pages, undated pages, with dates separated from the signatures, a format that allows backdating and manipulation. No legitimate contract is designed this way. It exposes residents to risk and financially benefits the owners if the moratorium lifted. People were pressured to sign documents they did not understand. I've been up all night, phone call after phone call, listening to residents. Some were told their rent would go up to $60 if they did not sign immediately. That this is not information, it's intimidation. I had to refuse to sign because they feared retaliation or misuse of the personal information. They feared this because the process has not been transparent and not been trustworthy from the day of the mediation. And this agreement is riddled with missing documents, inconsistent distribution, improper formatting, undated pages, coercive messages, and signatures collected under pressure. No city should accept this as an informed consent. This moratorium is the only protection that applies to every resident. Those who sign, those who refuse, and those who were never properly informed, like myself. I never got the last letter. Lifted it now with reward a process defined by confusion, fear, manipulation. I urge you to please keep this in place and move toward a real, transparent standard resolution, including adopting the GOPIF rent stabilization ordinance so that every resident is protected. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, next signed up on the list is Lisa DeRocher.
Lisa DeRocha, 18 Pinehaven Street. Good evening, councilors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. So I ask the council directly, what mechanisms will remain in place to safeguard us? And how will the city uphold its commitment to fairness, transparency, and equal protection for all residents, not just the ones whose signatures were counted? These are not abstract questions. They are the reality of what happens next. and the residents of Blue Haven deserve clear, concrete answers before any action is taken that would remove the only protections some of us currently have. I'm asking the council to enact a rent stabilization ordinance to help our community stay housed, preserve affordable housing, and support strong, stable communities. There are other cities and towns that we've all been reading about that also need so much help. The list is Johnston County Park, Oakland, Arundel, Brunswick, Waterville, Biddeford, and so many more. We all need your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, that is the only members that we have signed up. The podium is open for any members of the audience. If you wish to speak, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the council.
I haven't been up here in a while. Sarah Belanger, formerly 31C Pheasant Road, and currently 5 Sparrow Drive. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Okay, so tonight I'm here before you in support of maintaining the moratorium and drafting rent stabilization. We ask you not to remove the moratorium, continue protecting residents while the city evaluates long-term solutions. The moratorium is the only safeguard preventing sudden destabilization rent increases that would displace families, force retirees out of their homes, and destabilize a community that has existed for decades. Many residents here live on fixed incomes, and a fixed income does not go far in today's economy. Every dollar is already stretched between medical costs, groceries, utilities, and basic living expenses. When owners impose aggressive rent increases, there is no room for people to absorb those costs. Without the moratorium, residents would be left defenseless against owners who have already shown that they are willing to push rents far beyond what seniors, disabled residents, and working families can afford. Mobile home parks were never intended to be high-yield investment vehicles for large equity firms. They were designed to be stable, affordable neighborhoods where people could build a life, raise their families, and age with dignity. Removing the moratorium now would expose residents to the exact predatory practices the city sought to prevent. Maintaining the moratorium gives the city the time and space needed to craft a rent stabilization ordinance that reflects local values and ensures long-term community stability. A well-designed ordinance would require the rent increases be reasonable, transparent, and tied to actual operating costs, not investor expectation of speculative profit motives. This is fundamentally about preventing displacement, preserving affordability, and ensuring that mobile home parks remain accessible to the people they were built to serve. I am asking you to stand with the residents who contribute to this city every day and who are simply asking for a fair, stable, and honest path forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council members. Thank you for listening to us tonight. I'm Barb Thomas. I live at 2 Meserve Circle at the Saco Blue Haven community. You'll see I gave you each a packet, and within that packet are 4 different letters. The first being the Blue Haven formal update regarding the formation of the Blue Haven Resident Cooperative. Also, you have an establishment of the Blue Haven Resident Cooperative and a development roadmap to building that cooperative. And the last is the immediate release for the launching of the Blue Haven Resident Cooperative. Tonight, I would like to say to the members of Saco City Council, I'm speaking to you today as a resident of Saco and a dedicated advocate for housing stability. I would like to formally brief the council on the ongoing efforts to establish the Blue Haven Resident Cooperative, an initiative aimed at securing long-term affordability and resident-led governance for our community. Our mission is to transition Blue Haven toward a cooperative ownership model in an era where affordable housing is increasingly scarce in southern Maine. This cooperative serves as a vital tool to protect residents from displacement, ensure infrastructure stability, and promote civic engagement. Significant groundwork has already been laid, including the compilation of legal filing details and the drafting of organizational bylaws. We are working closely with the technical advisors to ensure the transition is handled with the highest level of professional oversight, and we will look forward to keeping the council informed as we reach future milestones in this process. Our mission, the primary goal, is to transition towards the cooperative. And it will guard against displacement and predatory rent increases, maintain the infrastructure and safety of the neighborhood through collective responsibility, and foster a sense of ownership and community pride among Saco residents. A summary of the actions we have taken over the past several months: significant groundwork has been laid to move this project from vision to formal entity. My efforts have included compiling necessary filing details, address records, and organizational fact sheets to ensure legal and administrative transparency, engaging with committee members to draft governing documents and bylaws that reflect the unique needs of our park, and creating a repository of materials to educate residents on the benefits and responsibilities of a resident-owned community or a ROC. Blue Haven is more than just a collection of homes. It is a piece of Saco's affordable housing fabric. By organizing as a cooperative, we are working to ensure that this remains a viable, safe, and affordable place for Saco citizens to live for decades to come. I welcome the opportunity to discuss these efforts further or to provide more detailed documentation regarding our progress. Thank you for your time and for your continued support of affordable housing initiatives in your city.
Thank you. Any additional members wishing to speak?
I'm Kathy Dobbins. I live at 28 Meserve Circle, and I am the president of the Blue Haven Committee, and I'm not here to speak for myself. I'm actually here to speak on behalf of a resident who I spent on the phone today for 2 hours. And the reason I'm here, I want to make it very clear, is to be the voice for that resident who is afraid to participate in this process. I'm here to speak on her behalf. She's a late woman in her 60s on a fixed income. I provided you a copy of her written statement, and I'm going to keep her name and address anonymous as her request because of her fear. She feels
Okay, unfortunately, we do need the name and address of the resident that you were speaking for, so it is on the record. That is the part of public comment. You have provided us with the statement, if you wish just to go by that. But for the record, we do need to have her name and address.
Well, she is scared and she does not want it on the record because of certain things that have been going on behind the scenes at the park.
I understand that, but per our policy with the public comment.
And I explained that to her.
Yeah.
And I tried to get her to be here to speak on her behalf herself, but.
So you did provide us with her written statement?
Correct.
Okay, so we do have that.
Correct.
In reference.
Correct.
Okay, but if you would like to speak, we do need to have it on the record.
Okay.
If not, you can address council and let them know that we have this.
I did provide you with her statement. I left it with a copy of my statement that I'm not going to read tonight because I feel her words are stronger than mine.
And I do understand and appreciate that, but.
And no resident should be afraid to
Correct.
speak and be fear of silenced. And that's what we're seeing with some of the residents that are not here. So I just urge you guys to read through her statement.
Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. We as
Yes.
the council have routinely heard from city officials and other folks that have read into the record documents from other folks to.
We do, but the
to
names have
avoid
been
this.
disclosed.
Madam Mayor.
and we have been
She gave you her
provided-
name that she's reading into the record. She gave you her name and address.
Councilor Johnston,
I was just going to agree with
as our,
Councilor Doyle in that regard. She's welcome to cite her name and address and then read this as your own words. We understand it's somebody else's, though.
If you would like to do that under your name and read it as your specific words instead of identifying it as another resident.
I'm here speaking today as a scared resident on a fixed income, providing you a written copy of my entire statement anonymously out of the level of fear and pressure to sign and confusion surrounding recent rent credits and the ongoing uncertainty of the future rent increases. As a resident, no one should ever feel their voice doesn't matter, nor be scared to get up here and tell the city council their experience has been, but here I am, speaking on behalf of myself, well, this resident. I would like to leave you with final words. I would like to be able to continue to live the rest of my years at my home at Blue Haven Mobile Park. If this moratorium gets lifted, I can't expressly enough how devastating and scary this would be for me.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience wishing to speak?
Hi, Donna Stevens, 32 Pine Haven Street, Saco, Blue Haven Mobile Home to Park. Dear councilors, thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding the importance of mobile home parks as a vital housing resource. These communities serve as a critical stepping stone for young families, working individuals, and retirees seeking stability and independence. For decades, this housing model functioned because lot rents were stable and predictable. However, this stability is being undermined by out-of-state equity, firms purchasing parks and raising rents far beyond what residents can absorb. These increases often appear tied to profit extraction rather than local cost or improvements, placing an immense burden on seniors on fixed incomes and families living paycheck to paycheck. When lot rent increases by hundreds of dollars in a single year, residents are trapped. It is difficult to move a mobile home, and resale values drops when lot rents become unaffordable. This is no longer a functioning housing market. It is a system that displaces residents while owners profit without making substantial improvements to the park. To ensure mobile home parks remain a viable and affordable option, I ask that you maintain the current moratorium and pursue formal rent stabilization measures. As others have noted, the urgency of this issue has significant implications for our city. We must do more to protect our most vulnerable residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak?
Good evening. My name is Rodney Champagne. I'm at number 17 Clayton Drive. I'm a member of the Blue Haven Residents Committee. And I'd like to read a statement that has been put together that sums up some things that have bothered me and many of our residents as well. I'm here tonight to speak specifically about the Blue Haven MHP LLC communication with residents. Residents are increasingly afraid to come before the City Council, not because they lack concerns, but because of what they have heard or been told about this agreement. Several have shared that they worry speaking publicly could affect how they are treated, whether they sign or do not sign. No agreement should create fear, and no resident should feel that their voice is being silent. Yet that is exactly what we have been finding. This fear exists alongside a broader pattern of inconsistent processes and unclear communication from park ownership. Every party involved in this rent increase situation has some form of process: the city, the residents, the committee, and park ownership. Yet despite the number of processes that should exist, the process we have all been asked to navigate has been inconsistent, unclear, and at times entirely absent. A functioning process requires structure, transparency, and accountability. What we have experienced instead is a series of shifting expectations incomplete information, and procedural gaps that have made this anything but a smooth or reliable path. You hold elected positions entrusted by the residents of your wards and guided by the processes established in the city charter. Residents of Blue Haven are participating in that process by bringing forward concerns about the proposed rent increase and using their voice to speak as the charter intends. Senator Bailey is working with state officials to get stronger laws in place. See attached letter in our support of the resident of Blue Haven. The laws governing mobile home parks were established to protect one of Maine's last remaining affordable housing options. However, we and residents statewide have informed state officials that current implementation shortcomings are causing unintended harm. Residents of Blue Haven are increasingly reaching out for assistance in navigating municipal processes to ensure they are fully protected under the city's established procedures. As elected officials entrusted to uphold the city charter, we ask that you acknowledge these residents as they voice their concerns regarding the proposed rent increase. Furthermore, we request that you investigate their valid concerns regarding other serious issues arising from this process, as there is currently no formal procedure in place to address them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak?
My name is David Plavin. I live at 36 Lower Beach Road in Saco. I'm the chairman of the City of Saco Shoreline Commission. I'm also the vice president of Save Our Shores Saco Bay. Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Administrator, councilors. 5 years ago, I stood in front of the York County Commission with Rick Millard requesting that they spend $1.8 million to purchase a dredge with American Recovery Act funds. We were joined later by Kevin Roche and Dan Chadbourne, attended numerous county meetings, and some 15 months later, we managed to squeeze a 3-2 vote out of them to purchase that dredge. Since that time, no city or community in York County has provided the support for the dredge like the city of Saco. And I can't thank you enough. Some of you are sitting in front of me right now, gave us every vote, helped get us some funds to start working to put together a dredge authority. Finally, the county did the smart thing and decided that they were better equipped to manage it than we were. And after an incredible road of obstacles, hurdles that we managed to push through, that dredge is sitting in Saco Harbor tonight and will be used to dredge sand from the harbor onto the beach sometime in the next couple of days, and it'll be out here for probably 2 or 3 weeks. And even right up to the last minute when we discovered that a permit was needed from the Saco River Corridor Commission, several of you got together and provided the commission with the information they needed. I know that Travis and Emily, the mayor, and city administrator all came through, and actually we all worked together and actually got this done, so it actually can legally go pump sand, and it will be happening again this week. The fact that we have access to a dredge and that we're going to have access to this dredge moving forward as we try to develop a beach management plan and discover ways to keep our beaches resilient and sustainable. Having access to this equipment is an unbelievable advantage that hopefully we can utilize many, many more times. We'll probably have to, but we have it. I want to thank everybody, and if you have some time to kill, you can go down to Camp Ellis Pier and take a look and maybe even see it in action. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak? Please step forward.
Good evening. It's Richard Bryant from Jensen and Baird. I'm counsel to the owner. Blue Haven MHP LLC. I sent you all today a communication that was also given to the council, the attorney for the Residents Committee, which kind of lays out where we stand with respect to the mediated agreement regarding the December 1st, 2025 rent increase that was noticed back in August. The mediated deal, very briefly, includes the owner giving credits against the increase so that the effective date of the increase is pushed back from December to April, originally March, but now to April. The credits offset 60% of the proposed increase for the rest of 2026. The credits offset 20% of the increase for 2027, entirely through 2027. So the full increase doesn't take effect until January of 2028. The mediated agreement includes provisions which include no increase in rent through 2026 at all. So the need for a moratorium to continue, I think, is ameliorated by that entirely if the agreement goes into effect by the council's decision to rescind the moratorium tonight. Gives you plenty of time to act on other policy issues. The two conditions that were included in the agreement that was mediated included 51% of the households in the community agreeing to sign this agreement, which lays forth the discussion that I just said. And the second was that the council rescind the emergency moratorium by February 23rd, which would allow the agreement to go into effect on March 1st. But of course, we had a force majeure event, unfortunately, which was the blizzard, prevented the council from meeting on the 23rd of February. The solution to that is to extend the deadlines within the agreement so that the city has until tonight to rescind the ordinance. And there were further concessions that allowed the March scheduled increase in the agreement to instead be deferred, to be offset entirely by additional credits offered as set forth in the letter I've given you. That agreement that was proposed has been signed by 170 of the 251 households, which is 60% of the households in the community. That community has 90% of the households which are affected by the increase, 10% are not because they're closer to market. 78% of the affected households have signed the agreement. So we've got an overwhelming majority at this point. Finally, the owner has made the further concessions to offset not just the March rent, 100%, but to provide the credit to all affected households within the mobile home park, not just those who've signed an agreement or signed the agreement later. So we've also agreed to pursue discussions, assuming the rescission takes place and the deal is implemented, for the sale of the park to the residents, since that appears to be a primary concern of them.
Thank you, Attorney Bryant. You are over the 3 minutes. You'd just like to wrap it up?
I will do so. I just wanted to point out that that throughout the process, we've tried to be as transparent as possible. I've been communicating nearly daily with the attorney for the committee. I know that dealing with 250 people on the committee side is involved in an awful lot of work, and no doubt that's where some of the confusion arises. Other confusion arises through the complicated state laws, which make us go through a rather difficult process to achieve a rent increase and go through mediation with ambiguous standards. We voluntarily mediated, even though our rent increase did not trigger mandatory mediation under the state law, and I think we've reached an agreement that is responsible and reasonable and allows the city, the park to go forward to make improvements as and potentially sell the park as the residents require.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Not seeing anyone seeking recognition. Moving on to item 7, that is the approval of the minutes. We do have 2 sets of minutes to approve, and that is February 2nd, 2026, and February 9th, 2026. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made by Councilor Doyle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Parks. Any discussion or comment on the minutes? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Onen?
Yes.
Counselor Gale?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to item 8, that is consent items. There is one item this evening, and that is the massage therapist license application for Leah Hardy. Is there a motion of consent?
So moved.
Motion made by Counselor Doyle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Edwards. Any discussion on the item or wish to move to action? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Onen?
Yes.
Counselor Gale?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to action item number 9. There is one item this evening, and that is to repeal the emergency ordinance for the temporary moratorium on mobile home park lot rental increases, and that is Counselor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it ordered that the Saco City Council finds that there is no longer, well, I guess I'll read the background. Over the past several months, the City Council has had an emergency moratoriums for temporary mobile home park lot rental increases. The purpose of this moratorium process was to provide an opportunity for the mobile home parks tenants and mobile home park owners to complete mediation. Be it ordered that the Saco City Council finds that there is no longer a need for the emergency ordinance for temporary moratorium on mobile home park lot rental increases, and therefore the City Council repeals the emergency ordinance for temporary moratorium on mobile home park lot rental increases, with the effective date of repeal as of March 2nd, 2026. I move to approve the order.
Thank you. There has been a motion made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Onen. Any discussion or comment regarding the item?
Right here.
Counselor Edwards?
So the information that we received with the last speaker, was that received after this was drafted?
That was the attorney, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, that was received this afternoon at 3:45, I believe it was.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Counselor Gale?
I guess just to confirm on that, I mean, I hearing from the attorney that there's been some additional concessions made via this letter, I think is good. I question, though, it not being included in some sort of more formal legal protection. And I question, while an email and a letter to the council promising certain things is great, I think there needs to be something that is more valid that folks can fall back on in terms of questioning and presenting what the plan was, because I feel like this whole process has been pretty confusing as the attorney laid out. I mean, there's rules and processes that probably make it more complicated than it should, although it feels like things probably should have been handled in a more transparent and good faith effort. So anyway, I guess I just am questioning what the value of that promise is without being in an actual agreement.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Johnston, then Counselor Edwards.
Thank you. Yeah, I've wrestled with this for several weeks, if not months now. And I guess to Counselor Gale's point, you know, receiving that document at 3 o'clock this afternoon, while it does seem to satisfy a lot of the concerns that I think several counselors still had, and obviously members of the park, I'm kind of torn with what's the real. It's just a letter. There's no legal substance to it. So, you know, I'm kind of challenged with that, which wasn't something I was necessarily expecting when, you know, the packet went out on Thursday. So in my mind, I'm trying to just on the spot wrestle with how we incorporate that if we were to rescind this moratorium. Second, when, and I know this isn't a forum for questions, but I would ask council to allow us to kind of suspend the rules here through the mayor, of course. Did the park receive that notification prior to council or at the same time, or is that new to?
My understanding is at the same time it was submitted to the committee's attorney, and it was given a copy to the committee at, just before the council meeting.
Okay. That kind of creates a problem just in my book. Because I will say that if that had been gone out, and I feel as though they had been properly noticed, I would be more inclined to rescind this evening. But if they had the same notification that council had, it kind of doesn't pass the snuff test for me. So I guess that's just my thoughts right now. I'm happy to hear other councilors. I did make the motion, so I'll just.
Councilor Edwards?
So I'm feeling what you two are saying. I was also wondering if not only the committee, but did the committee have time to let the residents know this updated concession? So I'm wondering out loud if the motion could be amended to basically incorporate some sort of guarantee or of those concessions within the amendment, providing that this, and this are done, and showing proof of that, the moratorium would be lifted, so that we would hold them legally accountable for these promises that they made in this 0-hour notification.
Councilor Johnston?
I totally understand where you're coming from, but just based on years of sitting up here, I think that when you try to conflate the two, join them together, it probably becomes a fiasco for enforcement of it. Mm-hmm. The way I view it is we still have this moratorium in place until April 10th, I believe. I'd be probably more inclined to, and I'm not saying let's table it, but to table it and give them the opportunity to have some form of legal agreement, again, agreed to by the same majority that has, to date signed this agreement. So it could be incorporated in their agreement and not through an action by council. That's just my thinking.
Councilor Hewitt?
Would it be possible to ask for a legally enforceable contract signed by both parties that details those details that the lawyer just mentioned, and to do it without risking them losing this discount or credit if we did wait to rescind it until that contract is in place?
We do have the owner's attorney, and we do have the president of the committee with us tonight. If council is okay, we can suspend the rules in order of business to allow both the attorney and the president to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing if that's
and if they are amenable to that potential.
I would be against that, just because their attorney should talk, not an attorney and a person that is not trained in legalese and law, and have them talking to each other. I would encourage us to let the attorneys talk it out if that's the way we're going to go. Just my thoughts on that.
Did I mishear? I thought both. No, our attorney's not here. Okay, forgive me. I thought that you had legal representation.
No, we have the owner's attorney, but the committee attorney is not present this evening. We just have the president and the committee itself.
No.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Doyle.
So, first off, thank you, councilors, for the opportunity to speak, and also thank you to the residents who showed up this evening. We do hear, and we're empathetic to the blight that you're going through and all the issues. And for me personally, I've walked Blue Haven. I've been thrown out of Blue Haven by some folks who said, hey, don't come in here and solicit. But the fact of the matter is, if you take a look through there, there's a lot of dilapidation. There's a lot of problems that this park has currently with maintenance and ongoing issues that have not been resolved over years. And this is talking back to my 2015 campaign, 2017 campaign, 2019 campaign, and here we are here today. With that said, I mean, I think you've heard from the residents here tonight and why they would like the moratorium to stay in place. And I think we as a community, and I've said this over the last two council meetings, we should keep this moratorium until we as a council decide where we are going with the community, whether it's mobile home parks, which I believe we have 2 in this community, or in general, the entirety of the community. I mean, let's not forget the councilor who was sitting in this seat before me was forced out due to rental issues with hiking rents. The same kind of thing that many of the residents in Blue Haven are facing today. So we should keep this ordinance, this emergency moratorium in place until we establish what we want to do as an ordinance or as policy. And it might be, hey, we don't want to take a rent stabilization position at this time, and that's okay. But at least we as the council will have had the opportunity to discuss the policy initiative for the community. And that doesn't mean that the two parties can't still talk, doesn't mean that the two parties can't hammer out a better agreement that has the right dates in there. And I understand force majeure. I don't know that you could consider a blizzard in Maine a force majeure event, because snow happens, blizzards happen, we're not immune to it, we're not, I mean, it happens year over year. But I do understand the thought process there. But I think we owe it to the residents of our community to have the policy discussion, and I don't care that there's something hanging over our heads while we have that, because it's much easier to do it this way, rather to enact something or not enact something and then go back and enact it afterwards. We have the ability to do that now and have that discussion now, and that's what we should do. You'll hear, you've heard from the residents tonight. They believe they were forced, right? A resignation is not a resignation when it's forced, right? They feel that they were forced into these agreements. I wasn't there, I can't tell you, but if somebody says they were forced into an agreement that wholeheartedly favors the development, right? It favors the owners, favors Blue Haven, LLC, not the residents. Remember, this is an out-of-state corporate conglomerate that owns this, versus the residents of Saco, right? So I don't know about you, but I was elected to represent the residents of Saco, and I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that they are protected, and not just some of them, all of them. And so I agree with the councilors that have already spoken. We can say anything in a letter, but it should be in a contract. If they're going to do something, it should be in a contract. So if they're going to extend the time frame to April 1st, that should be in a new agreement signed by the parties. I deal with contracts all the time in labor law. If you're going to put something in there, put it into the contract to make sure all the residents of Blue Haven have had the opportunity to be looked at and reviewed so that nobody falls between the cracks. So again, we should keep this moratorium in place until we've had the policy discussion and until they get together and get a document that has all the right dates and has the signatures and has all the clauses in it that need to be in that, so that the residents of Saco have protection against this corporation that has multi-millions of dollars that can fight them. That's my thoughts.
Thank you. I will advise council that it already has been discussed with administration that we are planning in the next couple of weeks at one of the upcoming meetings to bring forward a quick new business item that will address that in the future we will be looking at the ordinance. Unfortunately, coming into budget season, it probably will not be until after because there is a large amount of research that Deputy Cole Prescott is working on now. She's looking at ordinances throughout other communities. as well as working with the state to make sure that we have the correct information on the laws around the rent stabilization and ordinances from the state. So that is coming down the road. It is the plan to be on the council agenda coming up in the near future. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. Well, I certainly appreciate Councilor Doyle's comments, and I would argue that he wouldn't be representing his ward if he wasn't making those comments. So, but again, as I stated before, I've wrestled with this for a while. As I understood it, and again, I only speak for myself, the intent from this emergency moratorium was to allow the two parties to go to mediation. That's what we deemed as the emergency because they hadn't had that opportunity. I never viewed it at that time as an effort to indefinitely prevent law increases. Again, I don't know about the rest of the council, but that's not how I viewed it. The mediation took longer than I think probably any of us expected, but that's because of the holidays and what have you, which is why we've had several extensions, which I think we all collectively supported. But, hearing, and again, there's different facts, there's different numbers, but from what I gather that's been provided, the majority of the park has agreed to the agreement from mediation. So now, as I went into the weekend or last weekend, thinking about this, it's our role with emergency orders. What's the emergency if the majority of what we were protecting? I understand there's still percentage that was not protected previously. Now, we're hearing tonight that perhaps the parks owners are willing to extend those protections, which, again, I'm supportive of. 100%, I think it'd be great if we can get that into contractual writing. But again, from our role in this, which we got inserted into, and it's a real fine line between dealing with the property owners and the residents, and not trying to get too involved in, again, the park issues. I'm not saying they don't exist, but we have to stay out of that. We're not a party to it. We need to be removed from it. That's where you get into tricky situations, in my opinion. Again, had the majority not been achieved, I probably would feel totally different as I had previously. But with that understanding that there is a majority that wants this, by not rescinding it, we're actually now impeding on what they agreed to. I don't know what that outcome is, but my concern is long-term for them. They put their signatures on it. Maybe it was, coerced. I don't know. We weren't there, right? We can't argue that. And then I thought about it, and it's like, so if April 10th is the expiration, what is the plan? We know we're not going to get an ordinance through in 4 weeks. The mayor just told us we're probably not looking until after the budget season, which is understandable. So are we back here April 10th with another moratorium? It's just hard to justify what that emergency is, in my opinion, given that we have a majority that says, yes, they're willing to accept this. So, I go, again, to the emergency ordinance powers as a whole. It's been, through the years, it's kind of subjective, but I do think that the intent there has always been that that's not how you'll govern, just continually pass emergency ordinances. The intent is for the emergency is a short period of time. It says it right in the language. It's temporary. And then you act. We have not acted yet. I understand that. And again, you can go back and look at my comments back in December. My intent was to run these in tandem. That didn't occur. It is what it is. I'm sure there's many reasons why it didn't happen, but it hasn't to date. And that doesn't mean we can't have that discussion later on, which, is also, if you were to say that, the emergency moratorium needs to stay in place because we're going to do a rent stabilization ordinance, well, there's an assumption that that ordinance is going to be adopted, and none of us can guarantee that. We don't even know what it is. So it's kind of continuing more false hope is what I'm concerned with. And then you set the precedent where everything that exists out there, HOA fees go up. They're going to say, oh, I want the city to do a moratorium because I don't want to pay my HOA fees. Or we're going to then determine how much a lot can sell for. It's just a really slippery slope that gets into government intrusion, in my opinion. We have a process for that. We should work that process. So that's just my overall feeling on rescinding, but yet we're still stuck with the idea that I think we all are in agreement that what was proposed in a letter should be contractual. And I'm stuck with how to proceed with that outside of withdrawing my motion and just allowing the moratorium to stay in place until the two parties come together, hopefully within the next week, and then bringing it back. If not, tabling doesn't make sense to me, because what are we tabling for?
Right. I can give you, you all know that family relative owns a property at Blue Haven within my family. Our personal knowledge of the original agreement after mediation was that the committee had the responsibility of providing the residents with the first, with the agreement. They were collecting the signatures. When we received it, my understanding is the 51% had already been met, and this is to go back to the question of residents feeling pressured. I actually did not receive the notice from the committee, did not know that we were to pick it up at the office. It was provided to me by Mr. Zamboni when we asked for it. So, Barb, I see you shaking your head no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry? Nope. Okay. So again, but it was the committee's responsibility, the first portion of it. Okay, yeah, we would have to change the rules of order to get the direct contact, but again, my understanding in the beginning was that the committee asked to have the responsibility of contacting the residents and taking those first sets of agreements. That 51% was met by the time that the ownership had come in to assist. If council would like to suspend the rules and orders, I can ask Barb to come in. I know that she kind of took the lead on getting that information out, if that helps with the process of how the agreements were presented to residents.
Madam Mayor, I
And
think,
I'm just trying to give everybody an opportunity to get the correct information. I know it has been a long process for everyone.
I do think we need to effectively proceed, we need to suspend the rules of order. How do we go about that?
You can take a vote.
Make the motion, I'll second it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I want to put in as a motion to suspend the rules.
To allow residents to speak.
To allow.
Attorney.
Yes, to allow residents to speak with the attorney.
Thank you.
At this
Second.
time.
Second by Councilor Johnston, motion made by Councilor Edwards. Roll call vote, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Doyle? Councilor Onen?
Yes.
Councilor Gale?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
All right, motion to suspend the rules of order of business passes 7-0. Any counselor with a specific question for a member of the committee or the attorney? Councilor Gale.
Just a question for the attorney. I'm curious.
Attorney Bryant, please step forward.
Yes, for Attorney Bryant. I'm curious why all of a sudden allowing the credits will now be applied to 100% of all affected households. That concession that was in the letter that was sent to us 2 hours ago.
Yes.
I guess, why wasn't that offered initially in mediation, and why did your client all of a sudden decide that that's something that they could do now versus a month ago?
The deciding issue for my client was that we received such an overwhelming majority of people who did sign the agreement. So it was very clear at that point that we had enough people, not just a bare majority, but enough people to be an overwhelming landslide. And at that point, the number, given the enormous efforts that took place by the committee, as well as by my client staff subsequently, to get the signatures, the notion of tracking down the additional signatures for people who have not signed would be a great burden. And we'd all been through this long enough. So that was the primary reason. The other thing is economically, I think the concessions that we've made to that group of the affected households would not be tremendously affected by extending it to all the other people. There were, amongst those who haven't signed, people who can't sign because they're deceased with no personal representative probate. There are people who are hospitalized, people who have Alzheimer's, et cetera. So that was sort of the primary thing. In terms of the timing, I've been having this discussion with my clients for weeks. Ever since the blizzard, that discussion became really important because we had originally contemplated and discussed with counsel to the committee the notion, what do we do if people hadn't signed when the rescission was supposed to take place? And there was always discussion about how long a window there would be to allow people who had voted against, who had decided not to sign, once the rescission occurred, to sort of jump on board and get the benefits of those credits. So it was a question of how long that should go. And at some point, once we received, at this point, 78%, I think, of the affected households have signed, we thought it's not worth the effort to go any further. So that was the timing and that was the consideration that led us to make those decisions. Is that helpful?
Thank you. And Councilor Johnston?
Yeah, my question would be, how feasible do you think it would be time-wise to put some contractual, document forward?
I would argue that the letter that was, excuse me, the letter that was provided to the committee's counsel and distributed effectively constitutes a portion of the agreement. I think it's a binding agreement on my client, and if we somehow breach that agreement by attempting to institute further rent increases or didn't live up to the credits that we'd agreed to, that we'd promised to people, we would be in breach of a contractual agreement. If we tried to evict those people because they didn't pay the extra rent that we somehow demanded, their defense would be, wait a second, I've got a letter signed by your counsel that says our agreement is modified to include this additional concession. And that would be the end of any attempt to evict somebody. So from a legal perspective, that communication we've made publicly, we've communicated to the committee through their counsel, and we've made it public to everybody who's watching what the city council is doing. That's a binding agreement upon my client. My concern is that it took us 4 months to get to a mediation with the group, because you're dealing with 251 people and only 5 representatives who also have to address the concerns on their side of the table, understandably. And after we reached the mediation, including a signed mediation resolution memorandum that laid forth what we were going to do and what the terms of it were, it took more than a week for us to get an agreement, excuse me, that was acceptable to the committee to be circulated to the residents. And I'm just concerned that timing is a real issue dealing with this. Had we not had the moratorium in place, and we'd simply issued the 90-day notice of increase, and if we didn't have the concerns that the resident has about the higher cost of rents everywhere, especially for mobile home parks as the most affordable non-subsidized housing, none of this would have happened. We simply would have put out the rent increase and it would have passed, and we wouldn't have had to have any other contractual arrangement. We wouldn't have to modify leases. We'd simply say, this is your rent increase, and it would have passed. It's because of the moratorium that we have to go through a much more elaborate process, and it's because of the state laws that have now instituted a really ambiguous standard for when mediation is mandated, that we're in this whole convoluted process, which shouldn't be the case. I will reiterate again, our proposal does not require mediation. We're below the standards that are set forth in the state law for mandatory mediation. We've specifically determined to set that rent increase below what market rent is and below what the state law requires to have mediation for, because we didn't want to go through that process. Residents wanted mediation starting in September, right after our notice of the increase. We offered to mediate. Said, show us you've got 51% of the people, which the state law requires, we'll mediate. And it took us months and months to get there. So that's my concern with timing. My client has been suffering the whole economic burden of this delay. They've paid for, obviously, the legal fees, but they've paid for the increases in taxes that occurred. They've paid for all of the rent increases come out of their pocket. All the burden of the moratorium has fallen on my client, and they've willingly extended that just to get the deal done because it's the right thing to do. Yes.
Councilor Hewitt. Is this for Attorney Bryant or?
Yes, for Attorney Bryant. Attorney Bryant, thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. My first question is, if we don't rescind the moratorium, are we jeopardizing the chance these people are going to get a discount or credit, as you call it?
For my client right now, absolutely that's the case. My client's been spending an awful lot of money on lawyers attempting to get this mediated agreement in place. So it is a concern. I certainly think if we get anywhere near the moratorium being in effect for April, we'll be in the same situation we were when the blizzard stopped us from instituting this in March, and it'll be another complicated mess. At some point, the client is going to say, you know, why am I doing this?
Okay. My next question.
Sure.
In my profession as a realtor, I've been taught that for something to be a contract, two parties have to sign it. And I know you said the letter could be enforceable, but I think many people here would feel better if the details were laid out, you know, with the dates, with all of the conditions, if your client is more than willing to provide those things, you know, if it was only a week for your, you know, your lawyer to sign with their lawyer, and the committee to agree and give their lawyer permission to do that, would that be an amenable way to address this?
If the committee authorized their lawyer to execute something for them, or if we had a majority of the committee, I'm assuming they work by a majority, actually sign an agreement. We had all 5 committee members and the mediator sign the memorandum of the mediation resolution and thought we had what we needed there. We then needed to make sure that we communicated it to residents and that the residents were aware of that so they could effectively vote in favor of it through signing the agreement. So, like I say, the process of getting the 170 signatures we've got now took a long time and an enormous amount of effort. So I think that suggesting that process can occur between now and April is fantasy. It's not going to happen, given how the process has worked so far.
All set. Councilor Hewitt, all set? Okay. Councilor Doyle?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is for Attorney Bryant. First off, I do want to apologize that your client suffered. But my point is, how many mediation sessions happened between the parties? One mediation session. And how long did that mediation session take?
It started at, I believe, it was either 10 or 11 in the morning, which was my birthday. I left missing my birthday celebration at, I think, 7:30 or 8 that night.
And did we have weather that night, too?
We had weather that whole day.
Yeah, I seem to remember that. And during that, did you guys break at any time during that mediation?
The way the mediation was set up, I can't talk about the specific items that occurred, but the process of the mediation was established by the mediator, which was selected by the committee. We followed his rules. We arranged for a meeting place in Saco. I and my clients were in one room. The committee and their attorney was in another room. The mediator shuttled back and forth between the two for all day long. And we paid the bills for all of that.
And so no subsequent mediation sessions, no further meetings?
We had a mediation agreement, a memorandum of resolution of mediation signed by both parties and signed by the mediator, and that's what we followed. The expectation was that the next day we would have an agreement, or at least a draft of an agreement, and that took, I don't know specifically, at least a week, maybe 10 days before we got agreement from the committee to the form of agreement that I had negotiated with their attorney.
And it's kind of clear that everything that should have been in the agreement wasn't in the agreement by virtue of here we are today with a new letter from you, which is on a Monday, which I thought we had rules about accepting documentation that came in 2 hours or 3 hours before a city council meeting on a Monday. I seem to remember that in the rules and order of business or something of that nature in the past. Maybe you've gone away from it in the 2 years that I've sat on this council, but I seem to remember us not accepting information right at the get-go as playing gotcha moments. But needless to say, we have this new information that you've provided, so it's kind of seeming to say that the new agreements weren't in the original mediation session, which probably should have been in there, right?
No, that's not correct. Had the council met on February 23rd and passed the rescission of the ordinance, it would have taken effect as written on March 1st. It's because the council wasn't able to act that we had this interim period where everything was in the agreement was set up to take effect on March 1st. The credits would take place then, et cetera. And now that couldn't happen because it wasn't rescinded. It was a condition of the agreement, essentially.
Well, and you're assuming that the council would have rescinded it that point.
No, I'm saying that if the council had acted and rescinded, and we did have the required threshold of 51% of the residents having signed agreements by that date, then had you acted to rescind, then the agreement would have gone forward exactly as written. It's because we had to delay that, and the effective date therefore pushed us because the moratorium was still in effect through the 1st of March, that we had to push things out to make it effective. So everything in the agreement, again, which was negotiated and drafted and approved by the council to the committee and by me and our respective clients, because he didn't approve it until the committee had told him, yes, this works. All of that stuff would have worked effectively had the council decided to rescind the ordinance and allow the agreement to go into effect on the 1st of March. And you unfortunately couldn't. So that's why we're where we are today. There's certainly other complexities of this. Again, I refer to the ambiguities in the state law, the fact that there is this moratorium in place, which is not typical at all, but the basics of the agreement were all laid out in writing, and they would have taken effect had the rescission occurred. What's happened since then is we've collected more signatures because we realized, gee, having more signatures, a larger majority, 8 out of 10 effectively of the affected residents, is a more persuasive case to the council, which is why we spent endless hours putting together a spreadsheet, which has been provided to you, showing all the lots in the subdivision, which have signed, which hasn't, those which have special explanations because they can't sign because of, again, disability or being deceased, et cetera. And that's all been provided to you. And I will, again, I apologize for the late submission of that, but we wanted to make sure that we got the numbers and the spreadsheet correct. And that's what we've had staff working on for weeks with the assistance of the committee to make sure that we reviewed all of the agreements and make sure they meshed with what we put in that spreadsheet, because we knew it was going to be provided to the city, it was going to be provided to the committee's council and to the committee. And that spreadsheet, according to my clients, who's spent an enormous amount of time on it, and which I have reviewed as well, and that spreadsheet is accurate.
Thank you.
All set. And just to clarify, Councilor Doyle, anything that is received to be part of the packet, we do not accept, but throughout this process, we know that the committee members, it's difficult to get all of the residents, so we do allow them to present to us at each meeting. They bring information, so it was only fair to allow that. And again, the email came directly to council. So you have a packet here that the committee has provided you with additional information that's not included as a packet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm well aware of the procedure for setting the agenda. I wasn't really talking about setting the agenda. I was talking more about the fact that in the past, we've changed the rules and order of business to make sure that a last-minute reception of information didn't influence a vote either way. And we're seeing it here tonight play out. And this was
We've received information from both sides.
I understand that. I'm just saying that public comment is for public comment. And Attorney Bryant could have came at public comment, just like many of the residents here today did, and present us with information. Again, just looking at it, it kind of looks like a gotcha for one entity to come in.
And there was an email that was sent on Saturday, sent from the committee to the council after packet was presented as well.
Again, I'm not talking about packet for information for the packet.
Well,
if you go to the rules and order of business,
there
it
has
talks
been
about
additional information
late
that has been provided
information.
over the
Yes.
last 72 hours on both sides.
Of course.
Let's put it that way.
Of course.
And
Is that
Councilor
a fair,
Doyle, if I-
is that a fair assumption? That we have received additional information from both parties within the last 72 hours?
Madam Mayor, I can't speak for you on what you've received and what you haven't received. I can say that I've received documentation only from one side over the weekend in a flurry of emails, but it's the same information that was received here tonight in public comment when folks came up here and presented information. If you've received anything other than that, I'd be happy to, because I'd like that, because I haven't seen that.
Councilor Edwards?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the questions of the attending committee.
Who would you like to address, Barbara?
Well, either one or both.
Or
So I have two concerns. One, some of these people who spoke said that they felt that there was, they were feeling that they were coerced or tricked in providing their signature. I just want to understand what the process was. So do the process of getting the signatures, my understanding is that the committee were the ones that assisted with getting those signatures. So was the feeling of coercion, from your conjecture, the process overall, or do you think that they were feeling coerced by the actual members of the committee?
First of all, our process was we took a vote as a committee to bring this to the residents. It was a 4-to-1 vote to start collecting signatures. We put our office hours up that Friday to be held in the office. We did not get the finalized agreement until 2 o'clock that afternoon after we'd already set office hours. We had initial office hours all weekend and had residents up to meet and speak with committee members to get signatures. And in 3 days, we had 102 people sign because we were presenting it to them in a layman's term, short, summary position. And then we went to door to those who couldn't make it out of their houses to get them to sign. Barb and Rodney took it upon themselves to hand deliver and talk to residents. We've asked for multiple extensions, which their attorney has granted due to the fact that we needed more time and whatnot. And then they decided, that they needed to go out and collect 20 corrected signatures because we didn't have any information on who we needed to get signatures from, who was on the leases, if both parties needs to be signed. And the other thing I want to correct right now, the 660 credit was not available to everybody until today. That was not known to us until today at 3:45. So none of the residents here knew that was an option until they got here.
Did you have anything to add, or?
I just want to say that he's correct. We mediated 1 day during the blizzard. It took almost 11 days to get the language corrected. And upon the first mediation, ownership started the 14-day clock before we had ever agreed on the language of that contract.
Right, I remember this.
And so once we got that squared away, immediately the next day, I have the luxury, because I'm a disabled veteran, that I am at home during the day while others work. So I took it upon myself and our vice president, Brian LaRoche. We both sat in that office from 9 to 12 every day and 4 to 7 every evening, weekends included. We asked for more time because people are out of town.
Well, let me just stop you there. So in terms of people feeling coerced.
What happened was, after we had our first stint of time that we had been authorized, and they started going out to correct the 20 contracts that, they basically had needed 2 signatures and they only had 1. Or there was a name that had signed that wasn't on the lease, so they needed to get the correct signature. We were okay with that. That was fine. It was the way they went about doing it, and it caused chaos in the community. And that was when the people started ringing our phones and coming to my home and knocking on my door and sending me emails or texting me, because the language that they were getting back was not, they felt coerced. They felt pressured, like, you have to sign this or your rent's going to be $660. And that's not what I tried to do as a committee member. When I was speaking to the community, I just tried to give them the basics of what it was, the summary of what it was, and tell them that it was just another layer of protection.
Okay.
They felt pressured into signing after those 20 signatures were being collected, and then the ownership went out into the community. It was not very well. We tried to explain to them that that would not work well.
Right.
We're a little closer to the microphone to make sure everyone can hear you.
Yeah, we tried to explain to ownership that that would not work well through our attorney, just because of the tension between the community and ownership.
Right, of course.
And this is the result of it. And I would also like to say that in the very beginning, my first request was for this to be mailed to each and every resident of the park. That was not the option they took.
Okay.
That made it harder to reach people out of state, out of town.
Right. There's a lot of complexity. The other question I had was, seeing that we have this agreement or this proposal now, is your committee and the lawyer authorized to speak for the entire park?
Yes.
And you don't have to go back to them to clear this with them. Like, can you make that decision?
We usually have, as we become BHRC now, it has to come up to a vote.
By the entire park?
One vote, one share. So my advice to ownership is, when they want to do these quick throw out new information hours before, or we've been dealing with this since day one, is maybe mail it instead of trying to put it on people's doors.
So the answer, I guess, would be is that no, at this point, the committee cannot make a decision for the entire park.
Well, we have authority to. It depends, I mean, it depends on what we're doing. If it's to amend this contract, then we have the authority to do that. We have the authority to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Ronan?
Question of clarification here.
Who would you like to address it to?
I'm going to address it to council, and somebody's going to answer my question, because I don't know who needs to answer this question. If we rescind the moratorium and find that they have not executed what they've committed to in the letter prior to April 1, can we re-implement a moratorium? So if we rescind it and allow this procedure to go forward, what's been agreed to by the majority of your residents, and we find that prior to April 1, the terms of this agreement have not been integrated into the payment scheme, can we then reissue the moratorium because it's not met the expectation of the communication we've gotten so far? That's a question to council or to chief administrator. I think that what we've got is a reasonable agreement as long as we believe it's going to be executed. The concern is whether it's going to be executed. I'd like to say that we've got a month, essentially, to see that it gets executed. I don't know how we do that, but if we rescind the moratorium, allow this procedure to move forward, can we, in fact, issue another moratorium on March 29th?
Administrator Pelletier?
I would have some concerns with you doing that, if that is what you'd want to do, only because there'd be that gap in time where it'd be a gray area, right? You could ultimately adopt another moratorium, but the emergency of this moratorium would have already ended. I see Councillor Johnson maybe has a parliamentarian opinion on that, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
Councilor
that-
Johnston?
That was my concern. Yes, we could enact another emergency moratorium, but it would not apply to these residents because legally, whatever had previously been presented back to December, whatever, would apply. Contractually for them, those residents would have rent increases, so they would lose that protection.
Administrator Pelletier, can you go over and remind council the process? So we, after April 10th, I believe the next expiration is, that concludes the 180 days of the current, if we were not to rescind tonight and go through the existing moratorium. That ends on April 10th. Do we need to, can that be carried over, or does a new moratorium need to be in place, voted in after that?
If you follow the strict language in the charter, you could adopt another, you could extend the moratorium for another 60 days, if you so choose. I know we've talked about the 180 days from the very beginning, because I think at that time, and I was not here, but I think at that time, there was some looking at the state law on land use development moratoriums, which does refer to the 180. The City of Saco's charter does not mention anything of the 180. It's 60 days at a time, and the council can continue to reenact that ordinance for another 60 days.
I would agree.
Councilor Johnston?
Yeah, I would agree. That, I think there was confusion, again, back to the state law that is 180 days, but that's for land use permits. It has nothing to do with our ability to enact moratoriums or any emergency ordinance. It's 60 days with, in the way I read it, it's indefinite. We can just keep doing them. Though, as I said, I don't think that's good governance. The idea and the spirit of the charter has always been to, hey, here's a short period. Yes, you can, enact again, but act, like do something to solve the problem that you're trying to address. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at, where, I mean, I think I want to see a resolution here. Like I said, and again, I don't think it was a game of gotcha. I just think it was one of those instances where, we get new information, but again, to Councilor Doyle's point, if it's not in the packet, it's hard for me to accept it. Public testimony is one thing. They don't have the same level of access to our packet. This is substance. This changes the whole dynamics of what we originally were discussing in the packet. So that's where I've been kind of just stuck right now. It's like, how do we move this forward? It sounds like the committee seems to think that they may have the authority to accept these terms, which would make me a heck of a lot more comfortable than just saying, hey, I got this letter and it may or may not be enforceable in a court of law. I'm not an attorney, but I personally would not accept that type of assurance. I'm sorry, I see you. I'm just trying to finish my thought. So again, where I was going at it, I understand that trying to do 5 months worth of signature collections really wasn't my intent. It was to have the committee say yay or nay to this, and then have this, again, if we keep it in place, have this back before council.
Can I answer your question?
Within a week.
We've asked for additional addendums and signatures to this contract for all the changes, and they have not been added to the contract. That was one of our biggest issues with some of the changes, is to get an addendum to the signed agreements for the residents to protect them. And we've already had that conversation with the attorneys.
Okay.
Councilor Hewitt, then Councilor Ron.
Fragment and document.
I have a question to the mobile homeowners. In order to prevent any further legal cost upon you or upon the owner, it seems like the best possible thing would be if we extended another week till our next meeting, and then you would have the opportunity to both sign an agreement that would have all the details, all the dates. It would be up to the mobile homeowners to decide who would represent, whether the committee, the lawyer. You may have to, agree that within your community. But is that something that both parties think might be achievable?
My question, would that be an extension of your authorization for mediation? is that considered still part of the mediation that would allow
Let's
the
defer to the
authorization?
attorney in the House.
And I would say that would have to be a part of our discussion is with our attorney to make sure the legal part of it is correct.
Because they do have the legal authorization to mediate on behalf of the residents. Now, whether it's that next step above and beyond that. And Attorney Bryant would, at least on an attorney, be a legal opinion.
I can. So yes, I think if we were comfortable that the committee had within its purview the ability to accept the additional concessions that have been made by the owner and publicly presented to them and to the city, that my client would certainly accept that as a mechanism which was legally binding, because it considers itself legally binding right now. For what it's worth, again, I don't want to speak, I don't want to put words into the mouth of the attorney for the committee, but I certainly have had discussions with him about this, about what we're doing with this force majeure issue and how we address it. And in my conversation today, he and I were both on the same page as we have been for some period of time, that this is a reasonable response to the circumstance that arose on February 23rd when the City Council was unable to act as all of the parties had hoped and anticipated it would. So from my perspective, my client's happy to be bound contractually by the concessions that is made today. If we can get the committee and or their attorney to sign something that says, yes, we accept those, we consider this a binding part of the agreement, then I think we're satisfied with that. Because our goal is to get this finished.
Thank you. Councilor Arnott.
Can we take it from you that we could get this done by next Monday? If you allowed us to extend the moratorium one more week while you proceeded to get a comprehensive document that included all of the elements that have been agreed to date as of 3 o'clock. And it was presented to us in advance of meetings, so it's in the appropriate amount of time prior to council meeting. I know that I would be very willing to rescind the moratorium if I knew that I was comfortable that the contractual obligations had been put in some form of cohesive legal document, not 2 or 3 pieces of document that you would put in a folder. And I know that that's parsing things, but I think if you're looking at trying to get some cooperation from the residents, I think if you put everything clearly in a singular document that summarized everything, it sounds like we probably get some consensus as well from council.
So my point is, I'm perfectly willing to do whatever it takes to get that done. And I think the issue is more a communication issue on the other side of the table. And so, again, from my perspective, from a legal perspective, my client, I think, is bound by these agreements. I mean, if they wanted to file, if the ordinance was rescinded tonight and we breached any of the concessions we'd made, they'd have a wonderful class action suit against us for damages. So I don't think we need to have anything more than a letter signed by the committee and presumably approved by their council that says the committee hereby accepts the modifications set forth in the letter delivered to us in the City Council on March 2nd as being a binding part of the mediation agreement to address the issues that arose because of the force majeure event. I think that's all we need is a one-pager, from my perspective.
I'd be comfortable with that.
Okay, somebody on the committee willing to address that?
First of all, our understanding is mediation is non-binding, so this contract would have to be part of that process. And we would need 2 weeks, and we ask that the letter gets mailed to everybody, so that way we're not door knocking in the middle of the winter, because some residents are not even home, and they're gone for months. Like Brian's in Florida right now for a month and a half, so he's gonna need to get, well, I can email it to him.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Arnott, are you indicating that you're looking for signatures from the committee, not the residents?
I'm
The
looking for
committee
signatures from
authorizing as part of the mediation?
the legal entity that represents the committee, whether it be 252 residents or whether it be 5 people.
We
Somebody
represent, we have the authority to mediate, but we were also told during the mediation process, in order to ratify the mediation, we had to get the residents' signatures. So that was part of the mediation that the mediator explained to us, that we needed to ratify it with the residents that this was affected by. And that included 84 people roughly.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
I'm
Councilor
sorry.
Doyle.
I wanted some clarification as well, because this would be good to have some counterpart to this.
Madam Mayor, point of order here. I think I understand we've suspended the rules and order of business, but we're now starting to get into the point of negotiating for the parties, and we should not be doing that. The parties can go and take the information that we have said here tonight, and if they want to adopt an addendum, or if they want to get a one-page that says we're going to stay holding to the letter, they can do that without us. We're getting a little bit in the weeds, in my opinion, and I think we just need to kind of get back to, I don't think we need to take action. We can table this so that the parties can do whatever they need to do to resolve the issue and bring it back to us with a clean document so that it's not parsed out in an email and this and that and the other. Just my thought process on that.
Nope, thank you, I appreciate that. Councilor Johnston, Councilor Gale, then Councilor Johnston.
Just two questions for the attorney. One is, and forgive me because I'm a new council member here, but who is your client and who owns the park? I guess I'm still a little confused about that.
It's Blue Haven MHP LLC, which is a Maine limited liability company.
Okay. So is there a resident of Maine that is here that can come to speak, or?
I'm a representative for them. I'm a resident, so I'm speaking.
So some of the emails I guess I've been seeing have email addresses from foundations.
Yeah, so as was explained to the council before and to the residents, the majority holder of interest, the decision maker effectively of that entity of Blue Haven MHP LLC, is a charitable foundation, which is based in California. So, and as Frank Van Veenendaal, who's the president, or forget that's what his title, chairman of that foundation, he's obligated to provide, has a fiduciary duty to the beneficiaries of that charitable foundation to make sure that the investments the foundation has are producing reasonable income. And by the same token, he's got obligations to the members here because he recognizes that when we raise the rent, it affects our tenants. So he's in a difficult balancing position. He's not a real estate person. His best friend from childhood was a very wealthy person who died, and on his deathbed asked him, "You take care of all this stuff. I'm giving it all to charity." So he's handling investments all over.
Yeah. I've noticed on some of the tax documents, the distributions from that nonprofit seem to be going to various conservation efforts, Save the Lemur Foundation, things like that. That's great that they're able to make those charitable donations, I guess, with some of this funding. But I guess my last question here is that, so is there an intent to sell by your client, Blue Haven?
My client has told the committee and said publicly that we're happy to sell it if the committees want to buy. And part of the concessions we made tonight was make really clear that we're happy to pursue discussions with the committee if they want to pursue purchasing the park.
And so, are they open to any other folks buying it? I mean, I guess so.
From my perspective, it doesn't matter where the money comes from, whether it's the committee or the residents, or whether it's a third party who wants to invest. If my client's made the decision to sell, then it'll sell.
Right.
And under state law, if Blue Haven MHP LLC conveys the property under current state law, there's a right of first refusal to the residents of the park if 51% of the residents represent them, and they can get together something to match the offer that has been made to purchase the property, and then the deed would go to the residents or some entity they set up.
So would this letter about the offer to all the affected households, if the park were to be sold, because the agreement's for a number of years, right? In terms of the rental?
This mediated agreement deals only with the rental increase that was notified back in August to meet the 90-day requirement. So it's the December 1st, 2025 increase that we are saying Now it comes into effect, but we're giving a number of credits to offset it and essentially
For a number of
push it out
years,
for a
though.
couple of years.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. So that, if the park were to be sold, that agreement
Remains in place.
remains in place, right?
Yes.
So what about this letter here? That's my point of like, you say that this is a legal document, but you sell it to another entity. Your client decides to sell it to another owner.
Yes.
This letter, like, it just seems like it's pretty flimsy in terms of.
Anybody who spends a lot of money to buy a real estate property is going to do due diligence to make sure they get representations from the seller as to what the agreements are, what leases are in place, what other agreements may affect the property, and this would clearly be first on the list of items. So this isn't the kind of thing you could not disclose because that would be fraud. And it would be binding upon the successor because they will be the owner. They'll step into the shoes.
Even though Blue Haven hasn't signed it at all.
Yeah, and I'm,
signed by you.
again, I'm happy to sign, and I'm certainly my client would be happy to sign an agreement that says, yes, the concessions we made here, you sign it, we agree it's all part of the agreement, we're legally bound, as will be our successors and assigns.
Okay, I just haven't seen that. That's great that you guys want to do that. So anyway, yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I can appreciate where you were going with your line of questioning, Councilor Gale. But to Councilor Doyle's point, I think we're kind of in the weeds with things. So to that point, I would motion to rescind and further move to place this item on the agenda for the March 9th City Council meeting.
I'm sorry, Councilor Ghanshan, can you please repeat that? Motion to rescind?
Rescind the motion and further move to place this item on the agenda for the March 9th council meeting, 1 week from today.
Second.
I just want to be clear. What item are you asking to have on the March 9th?
The same motion before us this evening. I'm rescinding the motion I made, which was.
Okay, thank you.
To rescind.
Thank you, not the moratorium,
No.
the motion.
The motion to rescind. So the moratorium in effect will stay in effect, and we'll have this before us in a week.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you for the clarification.
I second.
Administrator Pelletier.
Thank you. I think I don't want to muddy this up more than it has to, but if you were to simply just vote down the motion that's already on the floor, your first motion, then the moratorium would not be rescinded tonight, and staff would be directed to bring it back next week, if that's what the intent is. I don't think you want to have two motions at play right now, unless you want to completely withdraw your first motion, because it was moved and seconded.
That was my motion, was to rescind the original motion that
Councilor
I made.
Doyle?
No,
Why wouldn't we just table?
Well, because I think we have gotten to a point where we do that far too often without a clear direction. So we're going to table it just indefinitely, or we're going to bring it back? We don't.
I think we table it till next meeting and see what they come up with, what the parties, when I say they, I mean the parties come up with. Because if we're going to bring it back on the 9th anyway, we table it till the 9th. That seems a little bit cleaner than rescinding the motion and adding new motion. I don't know. Just my thoughts.
I don't disagree. I'm just, I think to the administrator's point, we could just outright vote it down. What I wanted to be certain, though, was that it was in the record that we were instructing administration to bring it back. Now, maybe that can just be a friendly, an understanding here amongst us all that it will be on that next week's agenda, which I'm comfortable with. So I guess to keep it clean, which I do prefer, we can just vote on the motion as is.
A motion has been made by Councilor Johnston. Is there a second?
I did second it.
You did, and that stands. Okay, thank you.
This is a motion to remove this from the agenda for tonight, after it's been motioned and seconded to bring up to the floor.
To remove Councilor Johnston's original motion.
Correct.
And to bring this back to the agenda next week on the 9th.
couldn't you just withdraw your, couldn't you just withdraw? I'm having trouble voting for a motion that takes this off the agenda when we can simply make a motion to table, or you can withdraw your first and the second can withdraw the second, and then we just don't deal with it at all and it comes up at the next agenda item.
As I just stated, that I'm comfortable with that now, as long as there's an understanding through administration that this will be back next week. That was the point there, but I'm fine with just.
I don't think we need a vote.
I'm just rescind my motion, and whoever seconded it can.
Okay. Counselor Edwards, do you withdraw your second?
Councilor Onen was the second on the original motion.
Counselor Anand, do you withdraw your second?
I withdraw my second.
Thank you. Counselor Johnston, do you withdraw your motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry for that. I just had to get clarification because
No, I understand, but my concern is that we now have just rescinded it, and now I'm discussing a motion that's not on the floor, and I wanted to be certain that, you know, the mayor wasn't just going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which has been routinely what would happen. Because right now we have no motion.
And I will ask, is there anyone who wishes to make a motion?
I would move that we place the repeal of an emergency ordinance for temporary moratorium on mobile home park lot rental increases for the March 9th, 2026 agenda.
Can I second it now?
Yes.
All right, I second it.
Okay. Second by Counselor Edwards. Any discussion on the motion?
Madam Mayor.
Counselor Gale and then Counselor Johnston. That might be able to answer his question if.
I guess I'm in favor of being just as specific as possible, because I look back at the emergency ordinance, and unless I'm reading an old one, which it may be, I guess I know that the intent of council was related to mediation. The wording is, in my opinion, not. So if we are as specific and intentional as we move forward with what it is that we're doing, that would be helpful as we look back at this issue as a city and in the future as well.
Counselor Johnston?
Well, I was just going to, again, reiterate the intent here is to have this within 1 week. The parties can come to an agreement, have this back before us, and hopefully there's a resolution at council. It's not to be back here in a week with another motion to extend it, you know, indefinitely or what have you.
And I understand your opinion. By tabling, you're not able to attach the specific date.
Right.
By bringing the motion forward this way, he is specifically attaching the December 9th, that agenda, this item will be back on, versus a tabling, it can come back at any point in time. But it doesn't demand a certain date.
Correct.
Is that my understanding of?
That is my intent, and I'm telling both the parties, please work together and, you know, work this out, or at least come to some contractual agreement that I think you hear it from council. We want something that passes muster with us as far as being legal, not just a letter. And I understand you're the attorney and you believe that's legally binding, but I'd be far more comfortable with seeing something that's signed by two parties. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Doyle?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to continue to insist that the council hold the moratorium until we have a discussion citywide on rent stabilization issues, because obviously this is just one instance that has caused a lot of controversy between parties and a lot of time and resources. And I just think that we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we don't look at this as a whole. And again, pointing out that the city councilor who sat here before me had to leave his seat for rent stabilization issues. So I think it's an emergency in that sense, that it affects many people, not just the folks that are here tonight, or councilors that sit here, or folks in the community that still haven't come forward with issues that they have. I think it is a real emergency, and it's only going to get worse, and we should address it now rather than wait, and that's just my opinion.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Edwards?
Do I have to make a motion to put us back into order?
back into,
We suspended the rules so that we could have the communication.
that is still in play.
That is still in
As
place.
long as the item is open. Yep, we have not. Did you
So
have
I
another
ca-
question?
My question was, do I have to make a motion to put us back?
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Okay, roll call vote on Councilor Johnston's motion. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Doyle?
No.
Councilor Onen?
Yes.
Councilor Gale?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1. Okay, so this will return next week. Thank you, everyone. Okay, item 10 is new business, and I believe we have, Director Titleman with us, and he is going to present the petition for zoning map amendment filed by BAAS Holding Company, LLC, to rezone a portion of the Flag Pond Road from map 76, lots 12-2, 13, from the Industrial I zoning district to the Portland Road PR zoning district.
Great. Good evening, Council. So I'm just going to provide a general overview of the project. A lot of the information's in the memo, and if you do have questions, the applicant's representative is here this evening. The BAAS Holding Company is looking to rezone 2 parcels on Flag Pond Road. Just to update you, there's 7612-2 and 7613-1. It's around 60 acres. The zoning today is currently industrial, and they're looking to rezone it to Portland Road. I'll let the applicant speak to why the applicant is requesting this change. Just as a reminder that this is going before the planning board tomorrow night for their review and recommendation to the city council.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, City Administrator, members of the council. My name is Drew Gagnon. I'm an engineer with Goral Palmer, representing the applicant BAAS Holding Company, LLC. As Charles mentioned, this petition for zoning map amendment request for the 2 parcels along Flag Pond Road totaling 60 acres. These are the first 2 parcels immediately east of the I-95 prior to the bridge on Flag Pond Road. Parcels are currently an industrial zoning district, and we're requesting an amendment to the Portland Road District. This is primarily requested since the applicant's evaluating a mixed-use development parcel, and the Portland Road zoning will support that future development. So a few main points, and this is all included in the application package and in the letter that was provided, but I did want to highlight just a couple of the justification for this rezone request. So location and connectivity. All the parcels along Flag Pond Road are residential in nature. And infrastructure, including roadways along Flag Pond Road, do not currently support industrial programming. That includes utilities, roadways, width, and again, I summarized that in the letter. I just wanted to highlight that. Another big reason for this rezone request is environmental impacts. So a preliminary natural resource investigation shows significant wetland complexes on the site with pockets of upland areas. Industrial programs require large buildings and large parking lots with really large turning movements and pavement areas, and that would impact significant wetlands on this site. A mixed-use development with smaller building footprints and kind of being able to be sited within the upland areas would better suit a site that has this limited upland area. 2 concept plans were provided in the letter. Those are just completely just to show the intent of how that would be operated from a large industrial complex to a mixed-use residential complex. Utility infrastructure, water and sewer would be brought to the site upon a development program to increase housing and mixed-use density. This is in line with state of Maine housing policies. Everyone's aware of the need for housing in Maine, and bringing water and sewer to this site will increase the density allowed on it and provide for that much-needed housing. In terms of comprehensive plan compatibility, just a few of these points here. Expanding economic opportunity, so a mixed-use development supports this. It would have some sort of commercial retail aspect associated with it. Provide a variety of housing options. This could include residential typologies and a unit mix off the Portland Road zoning district. A connected mobility system, a planned development, so such as a mixed-use development would include multiple modes of transportation that would be supported by mixed-use community rather than a large industrial road truck traffic. And as well as environmental stewardship, one of the points in the comprehensive plan. As mentioned above, industrial development would be significantly more impactful than a mixed-use community and smaller building footprints and smaller impervious areas. And lastly, future land use map in the comprehensive plan. It appears that these flag-grown parcels are the only parcels not in corridor transformation east of I-95. This rezone would closer align to corridor transformation like the adjacent land uses, and that would also fit into the Portland Road District zoning complex. So with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions from the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Hewitt.
Quick question for you. Is any portion of this development deemed for workforce housing or affordable housing?
I don't have any of that information at this time. I can certainly bring that back to the applicant, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Gale?
Two quick questions. One, you'd mentioned mixed use and kind of multimodal transportation options. Have you or the applicant been working with Biddeford, Saco, Old Orchard Beach on potential, helping out on potential bus routes or offsetting some operating costs for them to serve this?
I'm not aware of any direct communication with them, but it's a great idea that I believe we could work with that to look at putting a bus stop if that project were to move forward along that line, correct?
Yeah, I think it'd be good not only a bus stop, but actually funding for operations for that route would be great. And then you'd mentioned about the environmental impacts. What in the proposal would ensure that those aren't impacted, or what's the plan for keeping that stream and those areas protected?
I would just say that in general, for the development standpoint, obviously industrial zoning in the PR district wouldn't be permitted at that point. So those large buildings, we'd have to meet the zoning intent for Portland. And as part of the wetland justification, you need to go to the state for that in terms of the wetland impact permitting. And it's a lot harder to justify those impacts if you don't have like a large building end user there. So I think by default, changing it and rezoning it to a Portland Road District basically requires you to work around the wetlands and have much less impacts associated rather than a big box structure. I hope that makes some sense. I think it's an indirect result of the zone change rather than I guess a guarantee in terms of what would be there. So,
but I guess so my question is your client going to impact those wetlands that could be offset by a fee in lieu of or some other sort of way to get that permit to impact the wetlands, or is the plan not to touch the sensitive areas?
I think any development that goes there will have to have some level of wetland impacts in order to build the roadway infrastructure to get into the development. Okay. I think the limit of wetland impacts is significantly less under a Portland road zoning, just given the typologies and the footprints, if that helps and answers your question.
Yes, yep.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilor
Thank
Doyle.
Thank you for the quick presentation here. I'm looking at page 9 of 19 on the documents that were submitted to the council here, and I'm just looking at this diagram. When you say mixed use, the 10,500 square foot commercial building, or is that a community building that you're talking about? Right on the front as you kind of enter in and then you go to the right, it's on the left-hand side. Is that a community building when you say that, or is that a commercialized building?
The intent would be for a commercialized building. And again, just to reiterate, that plan is just showing intent. It's not what actually would be proposed. But the intention of that would be showing a commercial building closer to the Flag Pond roadway, which would make sense under both Portland Road zoning and kind of placement for it.
So that's not what you're proposing. That's just a sketch that kind of outlines potentially maybe what you're proposing?
What a Portland Road zoning request would allow for something like that to happen.
And has your company spoken with the residents of the parcels there in front or on each side of the entrance? Because I want to go back to my time here before. I believe we rezoned this once before already, prior to the clear cutting of the trees in there. We rezoned this for industrial use because there was a theory, and it was a theory at the time, that it was going to back connect into the industrial park if I remember correctly. And this was the subject of significant controversy at the time. And so I just want to make sure that we're not going down that road again. So my question is, have you discussed and reached out to the neighbors in the community, letting them know that you're proposing this change, this zoning ordinance change?
Not directly, no, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and yes, you are correct, Councilor Doyle, I do remember that, and I believe it was for the purpose of sale at the time,
Well,
when the original owner, Councilor Johnston?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch upon. It. No questions for the applicant. And with this being new business, I don't want to get it, too down into the rabbit hole of my position on this. But for newer council members, I do want them to be aware that this, not just this parcel, but all that industrial land from the industrial park over to the flag pond was subject of pretty significant discussion during the zoning revision process. At length, we discussed, do we keep it as industrial? Do we, change the zone to have more of a mixed use? And both the ZORs, the planning board, and ultimately the council, when they adopted the zoning ordinance, decided that with the finite amount of land and even less industrial land, it made sense to keep some land, for industrial purposes to offset that burden on residential taxpayers. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but we're somewhere around 80-20 split right now, which is not ideal. I think if you ask anybody that's paying taxes in the community, they would agree, or renters. Now that, that gets tied into tax increases, as we know. So again, I don't want to debate that too much, and I'm Councilor Doyle's point when he was mayor and Mayor McVale and I were on council, we specifically changed one of the parcels out front to give access to the Flag Pond Road for industrial development. What we got was clear-cut land. So now we're faced with, let's change the zone again, and to Councilor Doyle's point, that was a subject of controversy. I think they kind of accepted the fact that it was industrial and something might be out there. I'd say that, judging by the applications I've seen before the planning board and approved, we've got thousands of housing units already in the pipeline or have been built. So to me, it's a question of, is this the best use of our land when we have other acreage that could be developed? But like I said, I didn't want to go too far down on new business, but happy to give you background if you guys want to reach out. That is all. Thank you.
Councilor Doyle?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of follow up on that. I kind of agree with that concept, and just, for me, I think we have to, as a council, look at the city and look at what 30 years looks like, and where we are in 30 years. I mean, if we give away the Route 1 area to housing, where are the industrial and commercial buildings going to go? Right? There's only certain infrastructure that we have, unless we're going to put a ton of money into infrastructure beyond west of 95. So really, if we're going to really look at this, what 30 years looks like, we have to make sure that commercialized and that stays on Route 1, right? Industrial stays on Route 1, so that we can offset the burden to the taxpayers, because there's only so much money to go around, and commercialized or industrial doesn't pull as much on resources as residential. So again, well, we do need housing. There's no doubt we need housing, and we need a more diverse type of housing than single-family homes in this community. But for Route 1, we need to maintain our industrial and commercial areas, or incentivize industrial and commercial areas to offset the tax burden to the base. So again, I'm not saying I'm specifically against this change, but it goes a little bit against what we did before, and it goes a little bit against my thought process for Ward 3 moving forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Gale.
I guess I agree with all that. I think, though, the Route 1 corridor is changing quickly. We've got a new school coming in. There's a regional planning organization that has a huge plan that's titled Reimagining Route 1. So I just want us to maybe think, or I guess myself, it would be helpful, yeah, if we had a vision for Saco of what Route 1 is going to be, given that we've got a school going in an industrial park. So that's just my view on that, and I hear what you all are saying, and I look forward to going back and educating myself a little bit on this issue in particular that you brought up. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Doyle? Oh, you did, okay.
Thanks. Again, I think we just need to look at our comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan was done, the update was done, and then it was redone again, and it all points towards driving residential growth in the downtown and greater downtown areas, not the outskirts or kind of creating that sprawl out in the, in the Route 1 area towards Scarborough or even west of 95. Again, I think we need to look 30 years down the road, and how do we pay for things if we're just looking at single-family residential homes versus large-scale industry and commercial properties that balance that tax burden. So again, I think it's something we have to look at, but I think the comprehensive plan speaks to where we should put large-scale housing, and that is in the downtown and greater downtown area.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Planner Chalaman will be taking this back to the planning board. Will they be providing us recommendations, or what will be the process?
So the planning board will review it for the first time tomorrow and then schedule a public hearing, most likely in the first meeting in April. So at that point, they will make a recommendation to council.
Great. Thank you very much. So this will be brought back to us at a future date after the planning board has reviewed. Okay, moving on to item 11, that is administrative update. Administrator Pelletier.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I apologize, it is a long one, but I will try to move it along. Roads posted with weight restrictions starting today. Some roads throughout the city will be posted with weight restrictions to prevent damage. These postings typically last through the end of March, but is subject to change depending on weather conditions. Operators may apply for exemption certificates, which must be approved by the Public Works Department through our website. You can find the exemption form and a current list of posted roads on the webpage at sacomaine.org/road postings. Saco celebrates National Engineers Week. Saco city engineers are tasked with planning for development and maintenance of public infrastructure, designing city projects, and ensuring compliance during different phases of construction. Our city engineers are essential in reviewing proposed projects and developments in Saco and providing feedback. Please join me in thanking City Engineer Adam Bliss, Assistant City Engineer Kyle Mundroff, and Field Services Inspector Rob Lamar for their contributions to Saco and the Public Works team. Homestead exemption deadline. The homestead application deadline is coming up on April 1st. This state program is offered to homeowners who have permanent residence in Maine and reduces the assessed value of your home by $25,000. If you've previously applied and been approved for a homestead exemption on your current property, you do not need to reapply. To qualify, you must have owned your homestead in Maine for the last 12 months. You must declare your homestead as your permanent residence, and you must not claim or receive a homestead exemption on any other property. If you have learn more at sacomaine.org/assessor. Saco Hannaford's Community Bag Program. Saco Parks and Recreation's Twin City Theater Academy is the beneficiary of Saco's Hannaford's Community Bag Program in March. TCTA will receive $1 donation for every $2.50 reusable community bag sold during the month of March at the Saco Hannaford, located at 532 Main Street. Funds will be used to give theater summer camp scholarships to local kids. And lastly, the budget timeline. Each year, the municipal budget outlines how the city allocates revenue and expenses to provide quality services for the community. The upcoming process will focus on fiscal year 2027, which runs from July 1, 2026 to June 30, 2027. Council will begin budget discussions on March 16th with Saco School Superintendent Jeremy Ray presenting the proposed school budget. On March 30, administration will present the city's proposed FY27 municipal budget. Throughout April, city council meetings will include presentations from department leaders. Each department will review its proposed budgets, accomplishments, and goals for the coming year. Residents are invited to share feedback at the formal public hearing that will be held on Monday, May 4. A council budget workshop will also take place that evening as part of the regular 6:30 meeting. And on Monday, May 11th, the Saco City Council will vote on the FY27 municipal budget and the FY27 school budget. After that vote, the school budget will move to a local referendum vote during the June election. For more details about the budget process and answers to common questions, visit our website, sacomaine.org/budget. And the upcoming council meetings for March are March 9 and March 16.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the administrator? Okay, not seeing any. Moving on to item 12, that is council discussion and comment. Any councilors wishing to discuss? Councilor Doyle, then Councilor Johnston.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly touch upon Chapter 173, the seasonal rental property ordinance that we have. We've had several communications from a resident of Ward 4. And I would say it's Kathleen DiSaggio, but I'm probably going to butcher her name. Hopefully I didn't. I just wanted to point out that, again, and I brought this up during our short-term rental discussions in the past, but dating back to 2017, I had the same questions or opinions that she has in regards to the current ordinance and how it specifically limits, based on a geographic location, of where short-term rentals are allowed. I had asked prior administrators, 2 of them, to get us a legal opinion on that because there was questions about the terminology or what short-term versus seasonal was. And so I'm just asking that we have city staff and our legal counsel weigh in on that. Because again, this short-term rental ordinance is still something that I'm pursuing, but I also of the opinion that we kind of already have restrictions in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrator?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to report that I had a great conversation with the lady you mentioned earlier today, and we have a meeting scheduled with the attorney on that very issue this Thursday.
Thank you. Councilor Doyle.
I'm glad I deferred. That was much more important than I will not be present on the meeting on the 16th, March 16th. I will not be present. I have a work conflict.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, with that, moving on to item 13 is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Councilor Doyle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Edwards. Roll call vote. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Parks.
Yeah.
Councilor Doyle.
Yes.
Councilor Onen.
Yes.
Councilor Gale.
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt.
Yes.
Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn passes 7-0 at 8:43. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.